We start off with the next questions. How can we select elements by their attribute value using the CSS selector? This is the Selenium interview questions part 2. Using attribute equal to value in the CSS selector, we can select all the elements belonging to a particular class. For example, type equal to small, we'll select this element having attribute type of value small. How can we move to the nth child element using the CSS selector? Using nth child n in the CSS selector, we can move to the nth child element. For example, div nth dash child 2 will locate the second div element of its parent. What is the fundamental difference between XPath and CSS selectors? The fundamental difference between XPath and CSS selector is using XPath we can traverse up in the document. For example, we can move to a parent element, whereas using the CSS selector we can only move downwards in the document. Selenium interview questions. This is an advertisement, so I will not go through this. Going to the question number 24, how can we launch different browsers in Selenium WebDriver? By creating an instance of the desired browser driver. For example, below command will initialize the Firefox driver. WebDriver driver equal to new Firefox driver. What is the use of the driver.getURL and driver.navigate to URL commands? Is there any difference between the two? Both driver.getURL and driver.navigate to URL commands are used to navigate to a URL passed as a parameter. There is a minor difference between the two commands. Driver.navigate allows moving back and forward in browser history with the help of driver.navigate forward and driver.navigate.back commands. In case of single page applications where the URL is appended by hash to navigate to different sections of the page, driver.navigate to navigates to a particular section by changing the URL without refreshing the page, whereas driver.get refreshes the page. This refreshing of the page is also the primary reason why history is not maintained in the case of the driver.get command. How can we type text in a text box element using Selenium? With the help of the sendKeys method, we can type text in a text box. Web element search text box equal driver.find element by ID search text box dot sendKeys search term. How can we clear a text written in a text box? In order to delete the text written in a text box, we can use the clear method. Driver.find element by ID element locator.clear. How to check a checkbox in Selenium? The same click method that we use for clicking buttons or radio buttons can be used for checking the checkboxes as well. How can we submit a form in Selenium? Using the submit method, we can submit a form in Selenium. Driver.find element by ID form1 submit. Also, we can use the click method for the same purpose. Find element by ID form1 dot click. Explain the difference between close and quit commands. The difference between close and quit commands is driver.close used to close the current browser having a focus. Driver.quit used to close all the browser instances. How to switch between multiple windows in Selenium? Selenium has driver.get window handles and driver switch to window handle name commands to work with multiple windows. The get window handles command returns a list of IDs corresponding to each window. If we pass a particular window handle to the driver.switch to window handle name command, then we can switch control focus to the particular window. For string window handle, driver.get window handles driver.switch to window handle. What is the difference between driver.get window handle and driver.get window handles in Selenium? Driver.get window handle returns a handle of the current window, a single unique identifier, whereas driver.get window handles returns a set of handles of all the windows available. How can we move to a particular frame in Selenium? The driver.switch to command is used for switching to a particular iframe. Driver switch to frame frame index, frame ID, frame name. For locating a frame, we can either use the index starting from 0, its name, or its ID. Can we move it back and forward in the browser using Selenium? Yes. Using driver.navigate back and driver.navigate forward commands, we can move backward and forward in a browser. What are the different ways to refresh a browser? There are multiple ways to refresh a page in Selenium. Using driver.navigate.refresh command, using send keys.f5 on any text box on the web page, by using driver.get URL on the current URL, or using driver.get current URL, using driver.navigate to URL on the current URL, or driver.navigate to driver.get current URL. How can we maximize the browser window in Selenium? We can maximize the browser window using the following command: driver.manage.window.maximize. How can we fetch a text written over an element? Using the getText method, we can fetch the text over an element. String text equal to driver.findElement, element locator.getText. How can we find the value of different attributes like name, class, and value of an element? Using getAttribute name method, we can find the value of different attributes of an element. For example, string value attribute equal to driver.findElement by ID locator get attribute value. How to delete cookies in Selenium? Using delete all cookies method, driver.manage.delete all cookies. What is an implicit wait in Selenium? An implicit wait is a type of wait that waits for a specified time while locating an element before throwing no such element exception. By default, Selenium tries to find web elements immediately when required without any wait, so it is good to use implicit wait. This wait is applied to all the elements of the current driver instance. Driver.manage.timeouts implicitly wait 5 time unit seconds.